Welcome to the True Talk Show. I am your host, Sharon Rigsby, and today in the True Talk seat, we have BRITTANY EDDY. She is a realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty. BRITTANY, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Thank you. So tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you got into this real estate space.
So I actually was coming from law school. I was going to be an attorney. And one of the areas of law that I wanted to practice was real estate. I seen that there was a need for folks to have some advocacy on that end, and I thought that I would take the back door. So I started interviewing top agents in the area and sat down with a few of those individuals. They're still mentors to this day, and I've never looked back.
There you go. That's awesome. So we're thrilled to then have her in the seat today. We are going to talk about home ownership. So talk to our audience a little bit. It's the American dream, right? Everyone wants to own something, and owning a home tends to be one of the first things people want to own. So speak a little bit from your perspective why home ownership is so important.
I think homeownership is important because it's an opportunity beyond what an American dream is. An American dream is something that is specific to that individual, right? And so I think that one of the things that it brings for all individuals in terms of playing the equity playing field, right, is the opportunity for equity, right, and for building out additional wealth factors for an individual and or their family.
There you go. Let's talk about those steps to home ownership. Let's kind of break those down because it's big. It's like a lot to unpack today. But let's start with step one. If someone is looking to own something, they want to own a home, what's the first thing they should be considering to start this process?
Contrary to popular belief, I think it's important to get clear on your why, and why do you want to own now? Because I don't think that it's not something that people can't obtain. I just think that there are certain time frames for every individual, right? So I think it's important to get clear on your why. And then second, I think it would be best to partner with a real estate professional or someone in that industry so that they can help guide you. A lot of times we think it's automatically go to the pre-approval, right? First, get your pre-approval. Well, no. You need to know what you want, why you want to buy, these sorts of things. So I think first, get clear on your why, and then second, I will partner with a professional in the industry.
So I hear you on both of those, and I think definitely the why part you need to know. Don't just want to do something because no one in your family has, so you want to, or your neighbor.
Everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, everyone else is doing it, but really know, like you said, assessing why, that's powerful. But basically it's the timing right too. But then the other part was talking about getting a real estate agent. There's a lot of folks who think they can't afford to do that with all the other costs that come with owning a home. So how can folks get over that hurdle if that is a barrier for them, if they think there's some significant cost to hiring a you?
I think that the right professionals will know how to navigate the market accordingly. So they're going to be able to guide you on all fronts. A lot of real estate professionals typically have financial backgrounds as well, and so they're able to navigate the industry in that particular market. So I think you don't know what you don't know, right? We were just talking about that, and so I think it behooves someone to first reach out to someone and see what those options are.
When they're reaching out to someone, let's be real, there's a lot of yous out there with the title, right? What should a person be looking for in that individual who's going to guide them through a process that they don't quite know a lot about?
So I think that is going back to step one, right? When you get clear on your why, you sit and you kind of research things. You write out why you want to do things. You write out who you would want to work with, or what type of personalities might fit with what you're looking for. What things are important to you from a business standpoint. And so I think then as you hash those pieces out, then you'll begin to start seeking out individuals that naturally gravitate towards what you're looking for in a business partner.
So it's essentially like how you do for a job. You interview. If you were hiring someone to care for your children, you're going to interview.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like what you're saying is they're interviewing, and they are really vetting these folks to say, you are guiding me through what for most people is one of the largest financial decisions they make. Interview them and really decide if those individuals align with their why.
And it's not always about, I know a lot of times people have family members that are in real estate or close friends. And it's not, when I first got into real estate, I would think, well, why didn't they use me? These sorts of things. But all business is not good business, right? And so every individual can gravitate and work better with certain individuals. So.
And sometimes you might need to remove yourself from the folks that you know well, who may not treat you the same as someone like you who doesn't know that person and is really focused on what their needs are, their why, and what they want to achieve.
Yeah. And I would ask the individual agents or real estate professionals that an individual is partnering with what their niche area is, right? What do you do best, right? Do you focus on multifamily properties? Do you focus on new construction? What is their area of expertise? And that will help you align a little bit better.
Well, here we are, folks. We have our why figured out. Yep. We now know we need to hire a real estate professional to assist us and interview them. What's the next step, though? We've gotten started, but now we need to keep moving. What's next in this home ownership journey?
So after you've partnered with that real estate professional, that professional is going to be able to guide you a little bit in terms of your finances, right? So we have to get clear on our cash and our credit is kind of what I tell my clients, right? So your cash is really your reserves or your capacity to purchase a house, your down payment, what that looks like, and then your credit as well in terms of meeting those specific minimum requirements.
Fantastic. So we've got with our agent, we're talking through our cash and our credit. Let's pause at credit for a moment.
Yeah.
Folks, this tends to be maybe one of the bigger hurdles for people to get over. Yeah. What can you speak to here for folks who maybe have some challenging credit?
So, credit is an algorithm. It's an opportunity for us to adjust that. It's not the end all be all. It goes back to what we were talking about with timing, right? So you could be looking at anywhere from 6 to 12 months for an entire credit report to turn around. But I've seen it in as less as 3 months or 2 months. It all depends on the individual's personal motivation and their personal drive, which takes them back to that why at the very beginning, right? And so you can see it all connecting together.
We have so much more to unpack here. We will be right back. Welcome back to the True Talk Show. Let's continue to unpack what we were talking about before the break. We were talking about credit. There are some things some folks may find they can do pretty immediate. They can keep on moving down their home ownership journey. What about those folks who find there's a bit of a detour that's needed? What could you tell them in terms of how they connect to get on the right track there?
I think it's important, going back to that partnership with your real estate professional. Typically keeping in mind that real estate professionals also have a list of partners that they partner with. And so some of them may be able to recommend you to a financial specialist or someone that deals specifically with credit repair. And so that might be a good option for someone that feels like they're just a little stuck.
There's a lot of steps to this journey, which is where a professional comes in great. But let's wrap up with maybe 1 or 2 other quick points that folks need to keep top of mind if they're building out their own list to ensure they're thinking through everything to get them from starting to actually getting the keys to that new home.
Absolutely. So at that point that you have partnered with your real estate professional, they'll really be a good guide towards the rest of the transaction of what you're looking to do. But then you go towards that pre-approval. You get your pre-approval. That should be a moment of celebration because it's quite a journey, right? And so upon that pre-approval, now you're ready to shop. And so what I would say as people start to shop is keep an open mind. You may come in with one thing in mind, but you may explore some additional options that may be just as conducive to that initial why.
Let's talk real quick about the why of that and keeping an open mind. What would you offer as some advice for folks who are looking for homes? There's always stuff you really want, but your budget only allows this. What kind of advice can you give them to be careful to not get caught up in the moment of all of that?
Yeah, I think it would be important to stick to your budget, right? And not just your budget in the sense of what the purchase price is, but I always tell my clients to purchase into your monthly mortgage. We can find you the right home, but you're not going to be as satisfied with that home if you're walking into it and the next month that you have to pay the mortgage is a little too steep. We want to put you in the best situation as possible.
Yeah, so don't get caught up in what they're saying you're approved for, but really assess and evaluate, do I like that mortgage payment? That's right. Because it may mean you're coming down just a little bit, and that's okay. That's smart than going out there and buying something that you can't ultimately
And your
afford.
lender is a partner as well. It is a partner in your transaction. And so hold your lender accountable as well and say, hey, I'm considering looking at these homes. What would my monthly mortgage look like if I were to offer this amount versus this amount?
One last question. What do you say to folks when they are trying to figure out where's the best areas to buy based on price? How do you respond to that?
I would say go back to your why, right? So go back to the why in the sense of, what are you looking for? Do you want something more walkable? Are you moving because you're looking to start building out generational wealth? You might want to consider house hacking then maybe at that point. And that might look different in different areas. So going back to the why, partnering with the right professionals, they'll help guide you in terms of understanding that local market.
Well, you see, we started with your why and hiring a professional, and we ended with the same two things. We've talked about a lot today, but those two things are key. So Brittany, we've talked about now those kind of big picture steps to home ownership. We've established the fact that a why is important, and hiring a real estate professional to truly guide is really the key here. But let's just talk about our market. It's competitive, and in many areas is incredibly competitive. How should folks consider what they're buying from an existing home or looking at a new home? What's your advice there for them?
I think they should take into consideration a couple of different things. And one would be, how long are you looking to stay in that first home? If it's something where you're saying, I'm not a mover, I hate moving, I hate the concept of moving, you might want to consider a new construction home. Because they often come with a lot of warranties as well that don't necessarily exist on the traditional market. So there are some protections obviously on the traditional market, but new construction could be a very viable option.
But is it true that like new construction has a bit more of a steeper price than an existing home does?
So I think that is a myth, and it's a really big misconception. I think it's always about going back to that lender partner of yours and seeing, where your monthly mortgage can land. It might mean you put down maybe a little bit more money, perhaps up front, but you have the benefit that new construction typically takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months to build. So you have a lot more time to save up for that down payment. So just get kind of creative with the strategies, right?
Get creative with the strategies. So again, just kind of recap, if folks are considering, you're saying essentially both should stay on the table. You may be able to go after and build a new home if that's your dream, but you need to assess and really connect with your agent and connect with your lender as well.
Absolutely. And I would also think about purchasing a home, not necessarily from a traditional builder, but purchasing land and then taking a look at the options on that land itself.
Now you just introduced something that's like, hold on, let's unpack that. So you mean just purchase the land with no property on it yet?
Correct.
For the purpose of what?
For the purpose of building out your home. Now, there are some other pieces which your real estate professional could get into that for you. You do have to make sure that the land has utilities and things to that nature that are developed already on it. Or that could get a little more pricier, right? But again, the right professionals in that partnership can guide you accordingly. But it is another way to set yourself apart in such a competitive market.
There you go. And that's actually really, really good. So again, it sounds like here, know your why. What are you after? And hire the right professional that can help you achieve what you're looking for along your home ownership journey, or even perhaps maybe an investment journey as well. So today's topic, we're talking about generational wealth. So share with our audience a little bit about your background and why you have such an affinity for this topic.
Yeah, so generational wealth for me personally is really near and dear to my heart because it is something that in our own family we haven't seen for generations, right? And so for me, I think it's also an area for a lot of families, and specifically African American families, where they just don't see the advocacy or the encouragement towards that. So it's an area of lack.
I hear you. Let's talk about, what does generational wealth mean?
I think generational wealth means different things for different people, and I don't think it's important for us to try to define it, right, in a box or in a vacuum, but rather yet encourage individuals to think about what that means for their family. For us specifically, and what I try to even encourage my clients to think about is that the monetary piece of what generational wealth typically looks like is just a piece of that puzzle. For us, it's more about legacy and what type of experiences we leave to our future generations.
So let's unpack that so that folks, they hear this, they obviously want this level of wealth for their family to be able to pass on. What are some of the components that go into making up generational wealth?
So, I mean, again, I think it just depends on what someone is looking to do, but from a trend set, right? We currently hear people talk about generational wealth in the sense of real estate and home ownership, right? And I do think that that is a huge caveat or a huge piece to building out generational wealth. Reason being, if we think about certain time frames where folks of color did not have the opportunity to even purchase a home, let alone be on a deed. This set us back, right? And so that has contributed to the gap in the generational wealth that we are trying to produce right now.
So you talk about that gap, and I know many folks who are watching can go, yes, we are obviously have experienced that, we recognize that. From where you sit in the space that you're in, how does one change that and really have that advocacy that you've mentioned? How can you do your part, I do my part, to one, leave a legacy for our own families, but then to help those coming behind us to be able to realize they can do the same?
That's the piece. You said help those coming behind us. I think there's plenty in the market and in the world and in any given industry for everyone to play a role, right? I think that we have to stop looking at each other as competition, right? There is enough to go around. If you can reach your hand back and pull someone else up into a space that would make them or their families better for generations to come, then I think that's the simple piece. It's a simple answer to the question.
So if folks are wanting to do something, they want to start and they're like, I hear this conversation, I'm inspired by this conversation, what would be some tips or advice you would offer to them to get started on whatever that journey is for them in this space?
I think we need to listen better, and that's me taking my own advice. I just think that we need to listen better and be intentional with people and be more present. I think we're in a space, unfortunately, where everyone's so on the go, myself included. And I just think that we need to be more intentional and listen better. People often guide their own answers. We just need to listen and then help get them there.
And then what can we do in the advocacy space? Folks who are achieving that, right? They're on that forward path of that. What can they do to help those that we're bringing behind us be able to have a greater platform or be able to have greater opportunities or greater access? What advocacy can we be doing to help in that regard?
There's a lot that we can be doing, because unfortunately there's a lot that still needs to be done, right? I mean, we're unfortunately in this day and age still hearing about the first of African American women or men to do certain things. And so if you get the opportunity to be in a particular space, reach out and see I always come from a space of thinking, who else can I put in this position when I'm no longer in this position? And start mentoring and giving that leadership and talking to those people now.
I love that. Is there a level of folks just connecting? You think of other individuals, other cultures, ensure that they always support themselves. Is there a level of that should be happening along the way in terms of that bringing people together? Should we be looking to support one another?
Absolutely. I think that we have been in a space of, a lot of people are moving toward even a trend of supporting local, right? I would encourage us to do that in and out of season. It's not about a particular time frame that's better to support our own cultures, right? I think that it's something that we should continue in and out of season.
Well, listen, if our audience wants to connect with you because they have too a heart and an affinity for this and really want to find other like-minded folks to connect with, how can they reach you?
They can reach me on any social media platform. They can go to good old Google, or I can be reached at 614-625-2831.
Awesome, there you have it. Brittany, thank you so much for being on the show and having a candid conversation about something that is really important, really important. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Thank you. The True Talk Show will be right back.